Coming straight from the mouths of madness, I'm Lowdown.
I'm Ep.134.
Do you love horror?
We fucking do.
So this is a podcast dedicated to all things in cinematic horror. We're talking movies, television, composers, special effects artists. We're gonna fucking cover it.
So if you love horror,
Embrace the madness.
The views and opinions expressed on Geekfather are those of the panelists and not those of the Geeks Under the Influence Network, their affiliates, or sponsors. Listener discretion is advised. This is for the parents and not for the kiddies.
Geekfire!
Can you try one more time? Say Geekfather real loud.
Geekfire way out!
And welcome back, guys. That's right. Over this long pause, missed time, the craziness,
We got sucked into a black hole of
life,
chaos. Yes, filled
which
with
life
chaos.
is chaos.
Yes.
Being parents. That's right, guys. Scotty P here with my sidekick, co-host, Kyle Smash.
What's up, buddy?
What's up, brother? I don't know.
Sick friend. I don't know
Yeah.
either.
Oh, allergies are killing me here,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
that's parenting is still there, as you know, as part of the Geekfathers.
You don't get a sick day as a parent.
No, we continue to bring all the trials and tribulations of being a geeky parent up to the last minuscule nanosecond that we possibly can, sick or healthy or otherwise.
That's right.
We're here till the bitter end, shall we say?
Mhm.
Very bittersweet.
Yeah, it is.
It is.
That's all.
So, guys,
Gets me in the feels.
it is. Geek Fathers is kind of coming to a full circle,
Mm-hmm.
as it is, with some things that are happening, as we say in life, like we say, the chaos and everything beyond. We are doing our subject matter tonight. We since we were not able to do a panel at GalaxyCon,
Womp, womp,
womp womp. We're gonna give you a little taste of that here, and of course it's the basis around Pump Up the Volume, the movie from 1990 starring Christian Slater.
Really just sharing our love of it and kind of comparison that we see
Well,
from here today.
there's some good, like, ooh, yeah, that's what I should or should not do with my kid. Like, you know, even though that movie is like 30 years old, you know.
I think from a parenting level, we'll get into it, but I'll say it right now. From a parenting level, it's everything you shouldn't do. And,
right.
For the most part. But it tends to be a trope that parents fall into.
Right. 95% of that movie is showing you the downside of what parents, how they should not be parenting.
Mm-hmm.
So, but that was my big brag when I first started the show years ago now, was that I wanted to come in like Christian Slater's character from Pump Up the Volume, being like, I'm going to let loose and just open up the filter about parenting and how my kids are, and or how my kid, well, I only had
At
one
the
back
time,
then.
that's
Yeah,
right,
I only
you
had the
did.
one. You know, but it was going to come in, it was going to be very unfiltered, which I think for the most part we've kept true to the show. You know, we
got older and kind of cleaned our act up a little bit, especially
that-
our language. We matured.
The show matured. I don't know if we matured. The show matured.
Yeah, wishful thinking.
Absolutely. So that was my gearing towards the beginning of the show. So it's appropriate that this, and we'll play taps, whatever you need to at this point, that this will be the last episode for the Geek Fathers for the indefinite future.
Yeah. Foreseeable
Future. It's just kind of weird, like, you know, like just thinking about it really, because it's, you know, we're not going to deep dive in why, because that's between me and Smash here.
Mm-hmm.
There are just things in life. We love doing this show.
Well, I mean,
And-
listen, we do. We don't have to go into specifics, but even then, they're normal things in life. You know, you get older, you get busier. You've got two kids who are, you know, growing fast like weeds, and
Right.
and, you know, and you just it takes more, and it takes more, and
Yeah.
and you know, as you go, and
Yeah.
It gets harder and harder. So it's, he said it's a foreseeable future right now. We have to go on our different journeys.
Absolutely.
As I say,
yeah.
our different paths.
And I just find it weird because of what happened with GUI Flagship. It's kind of following suit, being the original show, and then when it was just the Geekfather, was the first show to create the actual network. So it's just kind of weird within a few months of both the two initial shows for the network are shutting down, if you will.
Yeah.
Where it's just sort of like, just a little extra jab there in the feels. When it comes to how we built the GUI network and the things that we've done over the years.
Our empire
of dirt.
Wow, nice Johnny Cash throw, brother.
Thank you.
I like that.
Actually, it was 9 Inch Nails, but Johnny Cash covered it.
Yes, we fucking know. But,
hey, man, I got to be...
Even 9 Inch Nails will say he did it better.
Oh, yes.
He took what they did, which was great, and he did it better.
Very true. So, guys, we're going to bring you still a fun episode to end the Geekfathers run, if you will. We're going to be talking about some Pump Up the Volume, just... how we talk about our movies and TV shows anyways. That's really become a niche that we've done.
Well, you tell me something, as far as the show goes, is there a specific memory that will stick with you?
Oh, we're going to start with this type of thing now. Okay.
Oh, we're already in it, emotionally. So let's do it.
Excuse me. Again, allergies are kicking my butt by the time we're recording this, so I apologize for all the coughing and stuff I got to do. It's not a half lung again. I promise. No half lung this time. Just allergies are kicking my butt.
No Scotty half lung.
Oh, dude, go back to that GUI Kevin Smith episode where I'm like, I'm sipping on whiskey, thinking it's just a cold or something, and bad news.
Mm-hmm.
Anyways. So, a top memory from this show.
Mm-hmm.
That's kind of hard to tell. I would say, probably a top memory is just using my oldest as part of the intro. Just being able to lock that into history with this show. Yeah. I know we had always talked about we were looking at changing some stuff back before Dark Times and a few other things.
We're still going to keep the kids in.
We're still going to keep the kids. But it was nice that I was hoping to have the kids on more often.
Yeah.
But again, progression, how things roll, the kids, you're doing adult stuff. We don't give a shit about that. That's what they're, at least how they portrayed it to me.
I think it's just we don't understand it. It's dumb.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's not my video game. It's not my YouTube time.
Right.
So why the hell am I doing it?
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
So the fact that I was able to even get Logan just to help, get that sound bite enough to create the intro is probably one of my top ones, just to really kick things off for the show. So that was good.
Did they ever do any would they ever sit around do mock recordings sort of thing? For you?
No, because I've done so little recording at home over the past few years.
I guess that's true. You've mainly been here.
Yeah, it's been here even before 2020.
Yeah.
We just started here.
Yeah, 2019.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because you were coming on, but we didn't officially announce because it was
2020 is when we did the first GalaxyCon.
Right, you joined me for the GalaxyCon for that one.
Is that so? But I think I'd been on a handful before, but
right.
I wasn't technically
co-host. But after that, the way we worked through COVID and everything, it became the appropriate way to go. So,
thanks, buddy.
No, thank you. No, this show wouldn't be the same without you. And so with that, a top moment for you. I know you've been able to do even more of the side stuff than I have been.
Yeah,
over the years.
Yeah, I will say that a top moment for me from doing this was the first time I recorded with my daughter, and she just absolutely, it was just fun. And I remember that was a little 15-minute mini-sode.
Oh yeah.
And I think we did a couple more after the fact.
Well, she was even on a regular episode or two as well, if I remember correctly.
Yeah, for moments here and there. But
right.
that I'll always, because that'll always be ours, and that'll always be out there. So even when she's, even when I'm, I'm old and on my way out, I can
absolutely.
I'll leave that, and we can always have that, and she can watch, and it was definitely a fun episode. That'll always be one of my top memory. But I will say, doing this show, doing the podcasting all together, really, my daughter loved it. She got a kick out of it.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So much so that I remember one time she was having a sleepover, and they decided, my computer was in there, and the mic.
Okay,
So they were trying to hang out all night, pull all nighters, and basically just record kids stuff, and
that's funny,
and it was
that's
cute.
good.
I like
that.
It's nothing I ever put out there because it was just kid stuff, and it was also someone else's kid, and would never do that. So
right, yeah.
So there was just one thing that it was also a bunch of gibberish. It was like 3 hours of just them forgetting that the mic was on,
being a little giggly,
and just watching TV.
Oh,
that sort of thing.
I got you.
So,
Okay.
But it was funny. It was one of those things like she wanted to do it. She always wanted to be on. So bad. It was just she got a kick out of it. So we had some really great times. So because of the show, that's something that came about. Definitely one of my favorite moments. And I will say, second favorite would be the con. Would be the first time that we did because it was all our first times doing it, anyways. But
I did it the year prior, but I had I think Hunter and Steven with me.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah,
you did do it. 2019.
We had 2019. And then,
yes, that was our first time. That was not my. I didn't do Geekfathers.
That's what throws everybody off is that 2019, the Richmond Galaxy Con was in like June.
Yeah,
it was more summertime convention, and then I guess when they added a new city, they changed it.
Yeah,
and it was the last weekend of February in 2020.
That's right.
So that's where the weird difference is. Yeah, so technically it was my
that
panel.
was our first time.
Right.
Which was fun, but I had only done GUI, the GUI main panel.
Right.
Geeks Under the Influence panel, which was a fucking blast.
And you still had technically, even though it wasn't a panel.
Smack my pitch up as well.
But it wasn't a panel, but you still had Smash Talk going on back then.
Trying to. Yeah.
You have episodes that are still up on the site.
Well, I'll tell you, doing this for as long as we have, it has really helped me because definitely I'll tell you what, anyone out there that would like to get into the podcasting world, I will say that if you want to bring something out into it, do your best to make sure it is it's as structured as possible the way that you want that.
Right.
Because things evolve and they change, but for me it was I originally had one, and then the world then it kind of changed into something else, but then the world fucking fell apart. Everything was being talked about all the time, and everybody was constantly in their homes, and I was like, I didn't want to go into that realm anymore. There's nothing to talk about there.
Besides the things that 2020 opened up for people to realize in a good sense, it did close some doors, realizing of the I'm trying to think of the right word here. There's too much information, and the way you were doing Smash Talk,
it was saturated.
Yeah, I mean, it was just it's like with all the streaming services, you're never gonna 100% keep up with every show, every movie.
I originally wanted to talk about
know.
Get into real subjects and things like that, but then it just became moot. At that point, I was like, that's pointless. And the world now seems pretty dark at the so. I tended to drift towards more hopeful, lighter stuff, which was exciting to do this because that really helped.
Absolutely.
I would say all that, all that, I got a lot from it personally.
No, and
I'm definitely going to.
And with bringing you on, I again much appreciated. The show was definitely being able to grow. I feel like we were on more solid ground over the past couple years, even though we've had a roller coaster of stuff happening.
Yeah.
The show's always been on solid ground, but it has led to, unfortunately, what we had to decide of where the pressures are and should the show keep going or.
Well, it's been a crazy fucking year already.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, we're barely 4 months in, or not even 4 months in technically. So
the last half of fucking 2022 was an absolute awful shit show.
Oh, that was insane.
There's a lot of changes going on.
Absolutely, yeah. So I mean, it's we grow and we adapt, and unfortunately, as solid as the show is and what we've done with it, and we can't take the show with us at this point.
No. It's time to take ourselves to things that, and I'll tell you, I don't know what you have plans into this, but I will say that I just bought a house in a market that was honestly
somehow you did that. That's a ballsy move, but yeah.
Yeah, we did it, and we, so far have, we'll move out and do all that. So, like life, it's changing more.
Right.
And as it changes more, you have to change with it and adapt or die. I'm a big fan of that. That's why I love like Pump Up the Volume. That's why I love that, because it's one of those things where it can adapt. It can adapt. Yeah. It wouldn't die. It can easily adapt through the decades up to where we are now.
Oh yeah, if you were to make a remake or reboot, however you wanted to put it, of Pump Up the Volume,
yeah,
obviously technology, certain things would have to be tweaked because of over the past 30 years.
I'll tell you what,
it can be done.
Before we change anything about it, let me give anyone out there who hasn't seen it. This is a movie that came out. It was 1990. Starred Christian Slater. It was directed by Alan Moyle, who, if you don't know, and if you're within our age range, he also directed Empire Records.
Yes.
So, very much like to write as close to he could with his finger on the pulse of the youth at that time.
Well, and like we were mentioning earlier, the whole fact that he did it in a way more realistic viewpoint as well. Like, you have your punk rockers or whatever in different movies or your different cliques within a high school setting. Pump Up the Volume was probably the more realistic of any high school movie I've seen.
Yeah.
I mean, you do have, well, take a more, more recent movie, but like Varsity Blues wasn't too bad, as in a very small football high school town.
Yeah, I guess it showed Texas, right?
Yeah, it showed a small town in Texas pretty appropriately from what I know of. But other movies, whether on purpose or just however they're telling the story, like some of these groups and like cliques that you have, you're like, I don't know what they were doing in high school, but no. Oh my God, like, it's crazy.
I'll give you a couple examples from movies that was probably closer around that time, or at least within a few years of it. Teen Witch. So anybody remembers Teen Witch? It had the main witch in it was like the older lady from Poltergeist. Don't go into the light, Carol Ann.
Really?
Yes. And she's like a witch, and she, the main character is like another witch. Who the girl who plays the main character also plays the girlfriend, not girlfriend, but interest in Karate Kid 3. She makes the pottery.
That's starting to ring a bell now in that movie.
It's called Teen Witch. And so representation in there, like, so there's this absolute terrible scene where the main character is walking down the street with her girlfriend, her best friend,
right?
And there's a group of just stereotyped, like, late 80s Guido, fucking buy the car, like, wannabe suburban white boy hip hop at that time.
Oof.
Just doing terrible rap and doing the very just stereotypical. I mean, it's not tastefully done on any level.
Fair,
but just to kind of give you where a lot of those movies is like that extreme representation of things, and also probably not the most appropriate. Unfortunately, that was a time, and that's one thing that the plot, like at least this movie, I will say, and from what I remember in like 1990, it's very close to it. People who are younger who want to copy styles or bring styles back don't really realize how muted things really were. Like, you look at Saved by the Bell and shit. It's all
super colorful,
and like. Just like any generation, like shit wasn't actually like that.
Well, there's even those memes that have popped around going like, you think this is the 80s, and like you said, it's all super colorful, fluorescent, blah,
all the hairs, and I'm like...
But then the side-by-side is this was what the 80s and even the 90s, you could say, were like the cheap, like, wood-looking wallpaper, like just very dark, muted tones throughout the whole house.
What part of the world? What part of the country? You know, like just because that around that time doesn't mean everything everywhere, especially like in the United States, was like that for any style or whatever the case. You know, there was particular types of style that you remember from that time, but they varied.
Oh yeah,
but also like anything, very muted or left over from the decade before or several decades before.
I mean, I still remember growing up and going into some houses with like shag carpet. You know, like
they made. I will say the one thing about the decades, the several decades before was manufacturing. They genuinely made things that lasted forever.
Sure, yeah. So, that's why it stayed around for so long, you know, until people either had the money to like update it to whatever the new hip thing was, and it wasn't with. I mean, I'm sure some people had some house decked out super neon whatever.
I'm sure,
but it doesn't look anything like it does in most of those movies or TV shows. And
you're going to see extreme versions. Yeah, there was extreme versions of it. I mean, there's people who would dress or walk around, click certain ways, but at least in this movie, I will say it was so close to like as a representation that I can remember. That it really, watching it recently, because we were just watching some clips before we jumped on here.
Yeah.
It's like, you don't go, oh God, or
right.
It's like you look at it and go, yeah, that's about right. You know.
Yeah, I mean, Christian Slater's character is living basically in the basement.
Yeah.
And he has just random stuff around. It's not like all super lit up. I mean, he has a couple like cool things. You're just like, oh, cool, you know.
The character's originally from New York, you know. So
that's true.
Yeah, there's a lot of places to obtain a lot of shit.
You're right. Very true.
Especially 1990. So, as it was set. But I'll do the quick plot. Is basically Christian Slater plays Mark Hunter, high school student. Family moves there from New York. Dad's big boss in the education system. And especially at the school he goes to. So he doesn't have any friends. In order to cope with everything, especially the change, he basically starts an FM pirate radio station, and it basically he does it from his basement, his parents' basement. And
now, for those of you who are young enough that don't realize what an FM pirate radio station is,
it's a radio station.
Just use Google.
Yeah. It's a radio.
Google that shit, man.
It's the radio station that's not satellite. The one that's like Q94 if you're in this area, or 102.1, like a radio station, except for,
But he's using the frequency that's not being used.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah. He's kind of broadcasting that out. Now, if you were to do that these days, you'd obviously have to go to something obvious like TikTok.
Now
in the plot though, or in the movie, the Christian Slater's character Mark Hunter uses a voice disguiser, so that people don't know who he is.
Right.
It's very anonymous. So these days, I guess you could do that, but and it would be an effect, and you do something with your voice, or you probably put a mask on.
I mean, let's look at it from this term too, where just looking at audio, you could still do radio, but you would have more options for even just audio.
Well, yeah. I mean, he could still do radio. I mean, he finds an old ham radio style from his grandparent or his parent.
Or even if you go as far as putting it out there on Spotify or just something, just to really, if you want to look at the various ways you could update it. Now, obviously, there are things that authorities try to find him at one point. So, yeah, you would have to update. Again, you update the technology on how he's been avoiding certain things.
Yeah. Well, then they would track him down by his IP address.
But there's different things to avoid that, and
or his would be a podcast.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you really think about it, that is really like talk shows are the beginnings of what would become podcasts.
Yeah. Well, a lot of them are going into podcasts anyways.
Right,
especially talk show hosts, Conan O'Brien, Stephen Colbert.
Yeah, well, and as much as I'm not really a fan of his, but Howard Stern, I mean, I remember when the big deal was when Howard made the jump to satellite radio.
Yeah.
So he would no longer be just cuss words weren't bleeped out. content was not restricted. You know, it was.
Which, from what I've seen, video-wise, clips of even shows within recent years, it seems to have calmed down. Like once he had the freedom to do it, he was just relaxed.
Oh yeah, no, it was definitely that first year of him on set. I remember just like because he was so syndicated, East Coast, New York, you know, and I mean everybody was listening tooth and nail, like, oh my God, what is he going to do on satellite radio? He's going to wreck shop. But then yeah, you realize that you're just like, oh, but he's been doing the same thing for so many years that I don't care, and he does stupid shit anyways. Just one man's opinion. Anyway,
let me
sorry.
Let me finish reading this so that they know. So basically, his Pirate Station theme song it's from they have a great soundtrack. This movie does.
This soundtrack is killer.
Everybody Knows by Leonard Cohen. So obviously we wouldn't have the rights and the money to play it, but definitely should go check it out. I mean, it's a great song.
Right. Well, again, you have technology at your fingertips. Just about it. Everybody should. Look up the soundtrack to this movie. It is top notch.
I'll give you. I have a quick list too, right here. Jesus and Mary Chain, Camper Van Beethoven,
Richmond locals there.
Primal Scream, Soundgarden, Ice-T, Bad Brains, Concrete Blonde, Henry Rollins, and Pixies,
Descendants,
and Beastie Boys. Like old school.
Well, yeah, it was all
not that. I guess what was it, 90s? So
it was all late 80s stuff.
Was it Licensed to Ill?
Probably.
Or was it before that?
Yeah, it was Licensed to Ill because he made the reference about they didn't put the song on the first album, which was technically Paul's Boutique.
Ah, okay.
So yeah, it would have been off Licensed to Ill.
Gotcha. All right. Well, so by day, Mark he goes to school. He kind of keeps to himself. He's a loner.
Yep.
But at night he goes on and expresses himself through his alter ego, Hard Harry, or Happy Harry Hard On is his full name.
Yes.
As he refers to himself. So that's where it kind of starts. And then as he's going through this, people write into the show, this is a voice speaking to that generation and speaking to the angst and the
And on the Hollywood side is that there's a very specific thing happening at the high school.
Yeah.
Just to... Again, I say the Hollywood thing. I mean, but honestly, these days, it's probably more true than anything else. with what the evil teachers are doing. But it really is that whole, like, teenager versus...
Well, and that's sort of like the subplot of it. It's the plot of it, overall arc, like of your just general story,
right?
But it's so much more than that. That is a represent. So what if you haven't seen it? So what he's speaking to is that in the movie,
I wasn't going to give complete spoilers.
Well, fuck it. No, this is 1990. If they haven't seen it, they can go check it out. It's just.
I mean, they should anyways. If you haven't, even if you've seen it before, go check it out again. It's a rewatching. You can rewatch the shit out of this movie.
So, but essentially, is the principal of the high school he goes to, which essentially, like any students that are issues or problems or have negative grades or, somebody looking upon the school who's so whatever their state funding goes, this
SAT record,
or technically an undesirable. Is what they consider them, and that undesirable, for whatever reason they fail to test or whatever, they get thrown out of school, and the plot is essentially that the principal is doing this in order to get them all who she deems weak links, and gets them all out,
right?
In order to increase funding to the school. It really boils down to greed, which unfortunately, like as for public school these days, is not far. It's not far off, especially when it comes to things like SOLs and how the scores are viewed.
Oh, this movie is a total precursor to SOLs because all they're doing is referring to SATs in the movie.
Yeah.
But the way they base SOL testing now, and also, it's a total precursor to it.
It is. And it's not something I've ever agreed with. And I really, as a parent, I'm watching this going, as the parents, like they're so ignorant. Or they're not ignorant, but they're complacent, or they turn a blind eye to these things because, they just don't see it.
Well, even as Christian Slater's character's parents in the movie, how they talk about purpose, you know, oh, we were used to be anti-establishment, but now we're part of the establishment, and they think of it as like almost like a joke.
Yeah.
Like they're just like, oh, that's who we are now. We're fine.
We used to be this, and now
Yeah.
we're this, and you know, for a better life for our kid. And you know, I don't want to say that that's not wrong or right. You know, and the representation of it was actually very close to what a lot of
there have definitely been decisions that I
all the
made,
boomers made.
based. Well, my decisions based on what's going to be better for my kids to, you know, for certain things that I definitely would not have made at 18, 19, 20 years old, long before they were with me, you know?
Well, the dad in the movie says something very similar. He's played by Brian, well, his character name is Brian Hunter, but Scott Paulin plays his dad. And essentially he's just like, you know, it's a great area, you know, good school, you know, I make good money, and the wife's just like, oh, you know, you used to be like you said, this and that, you know, an activist, or used to, but now, you know,
it was about the job, not the power and the money.
The power and the money. He's just like, I still love the job, and I like the power and the money. And it's one of those, it's so like, you can definitely see, you know, parents like that kind of turn that blind eye until shit
but it's
falls down.
What a lot of it too is what you really look at is, like, take his parents, they always had the best intentions, but it was also how they portrayed themselves or how they tried to talk to him.
Mm-hmm.
You know, at one point his dad is like, there's like 1,200 kids in this school, there's got to be at least one of them that's cool. What does that have to do with jack shit? Is there at least one student, maybe, is there someone you at least get along with? We are more accepting of loners these days, but at the same time, you wish you do have friends. But it's not about being the cool kids.
Mm-mm.
You know, is there someone you're there? Or where the mom is like, we think you should see basically a therapist. We think you're perfect, but you've been so sad and droopy lately.
Yeah.
You know, it's like,
well, it's also weird to look at like this film and through the eyes of a parent now versus when someone either without a kid or a angsty, you know, teen, and it's a whole different. You look at movies like this and it's a whole different sort of view on it. Whereas I can actually see it through the parents' eyes of them being worried, because you don't always know what's going on with your kid, and
right.
And
but see, that's what I mean. Like, his parents were so the well intentioned. It was just how they tried to talk to him or how they portrayed themselves to him.
Right.
You know, it was,
and he's screaming into the void.
Right. Exactly.
Or the mic, but it might as well have been, you know, and he had people listening, and that's where he did. He locked himself in his you know, his basement, and he screamed into the mic to be heard.
Right.
To really be heard. You know, and I guess, and I can see that. And even from a parent's point of view, you know, my daughter at this age, I work on it all the time to make sure that I'm listening, because I don't want to not be listening and then something, you know, happen, or they think you're not there for them.
Right.
And so I get that. It hit home in a lot of different ways.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Kind of just rewatching the scenes in this, and it also has some great quotes. And from any perspective, I can definitely agree with some of the quotes we'll get to.
I still agree with I'm more side with this still with the teenagers, though. Even though I understand things a little bit better, for the sake of this story, the plot, the information that's there, I still side with the teenagers.
Yeah, it's hard not. I mean, even in this world the way it is, and without, you know, when it comes to the teenagers or kids in general, you know, be listening or paying attention, watching what environment you put them in, like all those things, is from a parent's perspective, is so. It's so important, and any parent worth their salt stresses about it constantly. You know, I know I do. Like, you know, but
constant stress, but also finding the balance of, you do need to let them be independent.
Mm-hmm.
You know, especially as teenagers. Like, I think about the stuff I did when I was like 16, 17, having a car, actually being able to go out and do stuff.
Yeah. And
it's just like, how were my parents not completely losing their hair? And like,
well, you probably weren't checking Facebook or your text messages on the way to do it. That's such a big thing.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's such a, that right there, it's like how things change, like technology. even if you were to do this movie today, we'll smack my pitch area up, but I'm not changing. But if you really were, you'd have to do it those certain ways, and I think it would probably be something that was YouTube based, or something that was TikTok based, and the Happy Harry Hard-On in this movie translated today would have a much wider audience. But do you think he'd still be speaking the truth to them as it stands now? And honestly, watching it again, I'd say, from what I see going on in the world, and as a parent, and from what I hear from my kid, what I see with my own eyes when I go into the school and watch how they interact, like when I have to drop her off or there's a meeting or something, it's, it can be scary out there. There's some that's way more aware, and there's some that aren't, and but more are aware than aren't, but it's also it's more aggressive than probably it's ever been.
Oh, sure, yeah.
In a lot of different ways, and social media has a lot to do with that. So I wonder what the impact of a show like that, and what kind of truths it's speaking to that youth would have on a wider audience. What would you see happen from that? I mean, in the movie, they rally behind him because he's speaking their truth where no one was listening to them. Yeah. And so they rallied.
Well, they were able to keep it located in one high school, one little town.
But it would be, right? Because you didn't have the tech to go any further unless maybe one person across if you have a huge ham radio, it might be able to get to one person and talk to them.
And it's still very, very early days of any internet access, and you definitely you didn't have it in a random suburb neighborhood.
I'll tell you what, you didn't hear that at that point.
No.
That was several years later.
Yeah, that was 3 to 4 years later. At least.
About 94.
Yeah,
about 94 is where you started to hear. But even then, your reach still wasn't that wide. YouTube comes around now, TikTok.
Oh yeah,
It's global instantly, especially if it's popular.
If we had to remake the movie, I would go the YouTube route because like so many other things, YouTube. If you only have we'll even say based on today's numbers, maybe say 2,000 followers, just based on students alone.
Yeah,
that's still not enough reach for YouTube to grow that big. But a catalyst, depending on how you want to write this next Hollywood, I'm giving you gold here. All right, how you want to write this. Does the reach go further to, for that whatever you decide on what the subplot is, that the reach goes further to actually bring in the help that's needed. Because this movie doesn't end on a happy note technically.
I mean, it doesn't not end on a happy note.
It
doesn't end on a sad note.
Not a sad note, but it's also not a... I mean, Chris, that character isn't all of a sudden like, well, we're going to let you go because you found this out. No, he's still arrested, and as far as we know, he's still locked up in jail.
No, they wouldn't be able to do it. I mean, he didn't.
I'm just saying.
Yeah, I don't think that... I think I would be interested to see a sequel now to kind of explain where that backstory... I think it was probably he went in and then got out. Because he was still, I think,
serve 30 days probation for so many years.
I think he was 17. He wasn't 18, so he was just just under the age, and at that time they took it a little more seriously. I guess now they'll prosecute a kid pretty quick compared to back then.
And the thought train just keeps going because also I was going to say it's all also based on, are they going to add in the charges of the kid who committed suicide? Because they were trying to place blame on him for that.
That's definitely something that if you translate it today and it was YouTube based or something like that, that would definitely be something you would see circulated around on certain medias that would use that as a way to basically burn a book or something along those lines, where it's like, listen, he is the reason why this kid decided to, because in the movie he kills himself, but he doesn't. It's not that he blames anybody, but Happy Harry. So context is that he received Happy Harry Hard-On, or Christian Slater's character Mark receives a letter from a kid who's thinking about killing himself. He leaves writes a number on it. So he calls the number and he speaks to him. Now he never in any way says to do it or tries to talk him into anything like that. He was just talking to him from and then they got off the phone and it happened and he killed himself. So after that incident, he, of course, he beats himself up because he never said stop.
Yeah, he didn't provoke him,
Right.
technically, but he also didn't say don't do it.
Yeah, well, what he technically, like, he didn't provoke him at all. He talked to him he talked to him, but never once was like, you should, he never told him to do it, but he just didn't say stop.
Right.
Don't do it. And that's something that character, I think, will carry around for their remainder of their life.
Oh,
is the regret of not saying stop. And, these days it'd be more brutal, because you have more people like, oh, fuck, they want to attack somebody online. They're like, oh, go kill yourself and that sort of thing. Like, it's awful. So
right. Yeah.
In this world, I just writing that into a movie to be contemporary, that would be a heavy hitter. I mean, you'd have to touch on a lot of nerve, and like
you also got to look at
hit a lot of nerves.
The people who are crying wolf as well with the same thing, unfortunately, which makes it hard to determine what's going on, especially in the movie situation where he gets letters from people trying to talk shit, which they're just telling bullshit stories, which he's like, haha, funny, whatever.
Yeah.
But there are times where, not as much anymore, but I remember, especially in the 90s, there were a lot of people, it was a whole thing, I'm just going to kill myself. And there were a couple times where we're like, well, are they? And people realize...
Are they dramatic?
Are they being dramatic? Are they just looking for attention? It's different things, and it's
taken seriously, a lot more seriously now. And I will say that's a good point to bring up, because that leads to, in this, is something that where still at that time, even in 1990, the stigma on mental health.
Right. Oh yeah.
And so what you had is a generation of kids keeping it to themselves and never and basically exploding. Which is probably true today. There's more avenues for them to express themselves than there were then.
And dealing with more so back then, because I remember kind of living through some of that, like helping out friends in high school. And we're talking about early to mid 90s for me.
Yeah.
The hypocrisy of teachers and such. We're here for you. We care about you. But you say anything or try to just like, I need a vent for a moment, and you say something that they deem as unsafe, they're ratting you out to the next person, or calling your parents, or calling the principal, or doing, this and that. And you're just like, no, dude, I was having a bad day. I just needed a moment. You're an adult. You're supposed to help me.
Right.
But now all you heard certain words or certain things, and now you're deeming me this like what they did in the movie, this like reprehensible person that shouldn't be here. And I've experienced that.
The school, yeah, I think everybody has the school counselor sort of thing, and it's and I'll say that I've experiences in real life too. There's some that generally care, but for them, it's hard. I saw a video recently, and I don't know how old it is or how real it is, but the video was put together as such that it was a high school graduation, and you didn't see the valedictorian talking, but you hear them talking, and they're thanking all of the staff of the school that was never there for them. Like this, and they got to the thank you for thank you to the school counselor for parading off your student who went to Harvard, but you never fucking helped me, like that sort of thing.
Right.
And I, it's on one end it's a lot to deal with, but on the other it's probably pretty true, and I don't think that that's really ever changed like that.
Oh no, definitely not. Now there are more teachers who do care, which is part of where
younger ones that take it seriously, and the stigma
and where we've always supported where teachers need to be paid more, they need better funding in the schools. There are things like that, but unfortunately, you still have the people where they go in there and they're just like, oh, I'm gonna do this, and like the dad. Yeah. Well, I'd like to power in the money now, where it's, I've got the advantage all around instead of just enjoying what I do.
Yeah, who was the teacher in Pump Up the Volume? Who was she was the
name?
English teacher. She in the movie the principal fires her for asking for basically being curious, very
curious and even defensive or defending. the student population to some degree.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out who that character was. I want. Let's see. Yeah, she was. I think it's Lala. No, that's not who it is. I'll have to figure out.
I don't know. I usually do IMDb, so I'm not sure where you're at.
I am actually on. I'm doing the.
That's the mom.
That's the mom. She was actually in quite a few things at that time. Seth Green. Oh wait.
Yes, a very young
Jan
Seth
Everson.
Green.
Yes, it was Ellen Green. I wonder if that Seth Green's like. No, they're spelled differently.
Oh.
Well,
Yeah, but like I was saying, there is definitely a very young Seth Green, very early. Well, he's always done movies. He actually, I mean, he was a child actor technically. He just never had a starring role, I think, until somewhere in the later 90s.
He was in Airborne.
He was
Super long hair.
But even
Just
that,
a few years
even
after
that was still technically mid 90s, dude. He was
Airborne?
Yeah,
Airborne's 92, 93.
Double check
find
that.
out.
He was the little brother in Can't Buy Me Love.
Oh Jesus, was he?
Yes, and that was like mid 80s, I think.
Yeah, so 93.
Okay.
93 is when that movie came out, which by the way had Jack Black in it too.
Oh, I knew about that.
Yeah.
Oh, I knew about the Jack Black in that.
That's
Did he just call me a piece of woman's underwear? Yeah, bruh.
Oh, but yeah, so that time, Pump Up the Volume was actually really, really well done depiction of that time and really, I'll tell you, the director and that script, a few tweaks, the minor tweaks,
man.
but you could use that dialogue today where, there wasn't, there wasn't any verbiage to like gay bash or
No.
or actually anything. Not that I can remember. Don't quote me on that though. I'm going to watch it again, and I'm going to go through each one.
There is one. All right.
I mean, it's 1990, so it's hard.
Well, first off, I'm going to just have an openly gay character.
Yes.
Regardless of a main character support, just how it was no like
openly talking about their experience and
just
something
straight
bad
up.
that happened to them.
But remember, it was the cop that was just like, "Oh, did you used to basically making a derogatory term?" And the guy catches back like going, "You're forgetting these are teenagers."
Yeah, you forget that you're dealing with teenagers. Like,
yeah. So there was a slight clapback. There could be a way better one written now for sure.
Yeah.
But the one derogatory thing that I recall was, and of course, it's a cup.
Well, it's one of the best snapbacks of the movie, and being a movie that was probably being made in like 89 or 88.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
And then released 1990.
Yep.
Actually, I gotta find the actor's name, but it was one of the only African American actors in the actors in the movie. I'm pretty sure, but he had one of the best.
There was a student.
There probably were some students and background characters, but in terms of like a damn good line, because it's a hell of a snapback. So
it is good.
It's definitely not progressive at all, but it's something that's where there's tweaks and there's things that you can do with the characters.
Oh, absolutely.
To bring it more contemporary and to make sure that the representation's there and it's properly represented and not, preaching one thing or another, but just giving an accurate representation of life, especially for teenagers.
You're talking about the diversity of a certain age group.
Yeah.
You've got to encompass. I mean, again, like there were other characters, but to have more like to have a more diverse characters involved would be the where the remake comes in. Like that could go way stronger than the original.
Yeah, well, yeah,
so,
and it's gonna. I mean, it'll reach a contemporary audience, and as we've grown up and we've evolved, as so should things that we love, because they should evolve with us.
Absolutely,
right? And be better as we try to be better, or hopefully try to be better.
Right.
And so.
Oh, and it does break my heart too that the dad from Teen Wolf is one of the bad guys in this movie too. He's the guy. He's the head of the FCC.
He is. He was so great in Teen Wolf.
Oh,
I will tell you what though, there's a lot to be said about past cinema of the past, and yes, not representing things properly or right. But even people who do stand out against that, well, they grew up with these movies. Like there's there are things to take from it that are wonderful. You know,
Absolutely,
that are
yes.
not just nostalgia, but that are great. And now
Yep.
I've watched quite a few as a grown man, and I've gone, oh God, no! Like
Oh,
either
yeah.
this is really bad or this is really
Oh
fucking
yeah,
bad.
there have been some movies where you go do that rewatch years and years later, and you're like, I hold this movie in so many ways close to my heart, but some of this dialogue and some of the things that they're saying, I'm
it's
just like,
all- it's like-
no, can't
I'm like,
do
well,
that.
I'm hearing it,
no.
I'm going, oh God, that is awful.
Right.
Like,
yes.
no wonder it was so deep part of the lexicon because certain times because that when you get fed into it and that's it's just those things become normal
Yep.
speech until you realize they're not and they're not
Yeah.
right.
And definitely shouldn't be part of normal speech. You know,
Yeah.
you're just like, no, whoa, okay.
That's why, like for Monster Squad, I love it. It's still one of my favorite movies. But if I watch it now, or if I let my kid watch it, or we watch it together, I watch the edited version because I call it the modernized version in terms of dialogue, where certain things that really don't need to even be in there are clipped out. But back then, it was a very normal part of it. But as I've gotten older, I'm like, I enjoy it now. I enjoy this version more. If I watch the original version, I'll like, I'm like cringing.
Dude, the cringe on.
And I don't want to sit there with my kid and be like, have them see that because the world's going to show them things, but that doesn't make it right or wrong. I don't want her to like see something that's loved and go, oh, well, those words are right, or I should say this, or should say that.
Yeah, and it's.
Of that age, you're not going to really find that now, of course.
No.
Of that time, for
right.
sure.
Yeah.
When you show them those videos those movies that you loved. But I tell you what, I think we're probably where are we at? Are we here to the end? I just want to make sure that we get these quotes in here.
Let's do the quotes now.
Some great quotes.
Yep. Some of the two that you should take away from this. And this is what I guess it's the way I've looked at it is these are the two main quotes that I will say that have carried with me are so be it, because sometimes that's just the way life rolls with you.
So be it.
So be it. And then the talk hard. And to me, that is probably one of the inspirations for the podcasting we do, for the way we handle ourselves, is that I may not be able to always express myself properly, but I'm going to talk hard so you know where I'm coming from.
Yeah.
Like to do my best to put it out there.
Yeah.
So,
put my truth out there.
Right. Absolutely.
That's one line that's something where, I'm a firm believer of everyone needs to live their truth. You have to live your truth. You can't attack others for not understanding that.
Yep.
Because that makes you no better than them.
Exactly. Basically a gatekeeping almost.
Well, yeah, it doesn't make you any better when you do. The thing about fighting fire with fire is it creates more fire. It doesn't put itself out.
Right.
So you come at something in the same manner that you've received. For the most part, it's not always going to yield the kind of results that makes things better. Doesn't necessarily, or worse or whatever. I'm not saying one way or another. I'm just saying that. We have to be able to accept in order to evolve.
Right.
At the end of the day. And that's for everybody, at least in my opinion.
I'm sure. Absolutely.
But with that said, also, like, I've got a list of quotes, but one of them is, they say I'm disturbed. Well, of course I'm disturbed. I mean, we're all disturbed. And if we're not, why not? What do you think about that? What does that mean to you?
I love it. I mean, thinking about it, honestly, the ideal song that should have gone in this movie should have been Suicidal Tendencies Institutionalized.
Was it out then?
Oh, dude, yes.
Okay. You would know better than I am.
Institutionalized was like 80, definitely in the 80s.
You're much older than I am. So.
Shut the fuck up. But yeah, I mean, but that's the whole thing of just like, I'm disturbed, and I should be disturbed because of, again, just like the way Institutionalized describes of, you expect me to be this way, or you don't like the way I become, but I'm doing what you told me to do. I'm going to the schools you sent me to your churches, to your, all these different things. So yeah, I'm going to be disturbed because I don't agree with it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to be doing this, and if I'm just complacent, I'm nothing.
Well, that's an interesting take. No, so I thought about that earlier. For me, I'll tell you. For me, and I don't know. Tell me if it falls within range. But for me, it was that meaning that we're all disturbed, and if you're not, why not? You know, I don't necessarily. You could take it literally, and be like, "Oh, disturbed," like, "Oh, I'm crazy, I'm gonna hurt somebody," but that's not always what that means. I think what it's meant to mean at that time is that we are all going through something. We're all fucked up because of something. Everybody is. Yeah. I don't care how. And the more perfect your life looks on the outside, probably it's more fucked up on the inside. So, unfortunately, we've all gone through something. We all have trauma or something that disturbs us. And if you're not going through it, then are you even alive? Why not? Are you not living? Like, how could you not? Life's going to give it to you anyway. So why not? And allow yourself to realize that about yourself.
Truth.
Maybe it'll help you on a journey to fix some of that shit. And that's what I took from it.
No, fair enough. And it sounds, it all kind of goes hand in hand for a lot of stuff. It's just all a matter of your position on it and what level you're at, basically, of that disturbance, if you will.
Yeah. So that's definitely one of those quotes that stand out for sure.
No, that's a good one. That's
I love that quote.
Really good one.
Another one is quitting is not going to make you stronger, living will. And
oh yeah, and that's right there at the that's part of that like last speech that he's given too at the end.
It is.
Yeah,
it's true. Every time I've watched this movie or I've watched clips and I hear that, and he's acted so fucking beautifully by Christian Slater, but it's such a quitting. It's not good. It doesn't make you stronger. Right. Quitting doesn't make you stronger. Going through it, living will, moving forward, always forward. That's the only. You don't get stronger standing still. Like that, or going backwards. And I like that quote. Even now, kids these days or teenagers, I think it's harder for them, and there's so much going on, and they don't, like we've talked about before, the emotional center of the brain, doesn't fully develop until later on in life. So you figure as a teenager or close to it, or just a kid all together, how much you can see, but how much you just simply don't understand.
Well, dude, and that's going to be one of the main times for a lot of people where, that's where a lot of the ultimate chemical imbalance, just with the changes of puberty, adolescence, so many chemical changes, so many physical changes, you're in a constant state of flux as a teenager.
Yeah.
And compared to other parts of your life, there could be other things. That's never a definitive thing. But, yeah, for a teenager, that's part of where the understanding's got to come from, is that they're not going to be sure on what they want or how they got to do it.
And they're pissy.
But, they're pissy.
They're pissy.
I don't even have a teenager and they're pissy.
I have a preteen, and she's great. I love her with all my heart, and I'm proud of her. But she can be pissy.
Yeah,
pretty pissy.
Fair.
Which actually, that leads into another great quote, which is being a teenager sucks. But that's the whole point. Surviving it is the whole point. And I totally agree with that. It does suck. It sucks for every generation. It has sucked for every generation.
Some level, for some reason, for whatever influence.
And I don't think it gets any easier as generations go on. I think it gets more difficult, especially now with all, the information that comes from every direction, just inside the brain, constantly in there, swirling around.
And it goes back to the burden of, what are your parents telling you to do? What are the expectations of your parents? What are you capable of doing? What is it that you want to do? And compare, it's
not knowing any of that and being okay with it, but understanding, I've always told my kid whenever especially if things go down or, bad day or whatever, but I always tell her, like, listen, get through high school. Through high school, and then when you're done with high school and whatever it's college, I genuinely, I push for her to learn something that she loves, regardless.
Right.
But that's where you can, that that is where it'll start for you, really start for you.
Oh,
And I was like,
absolutely.
it's going to, unfortunately, you'll have some great times, but it's going to suck. It's going to suck. And you just get through it. And that's a great quote. Being a teenager sucks. That's the whole point. You guys surviving, it's literally the whole point.
Yeah. No, and very, very true. Like, the whole thing where people talk about like peaking in high school, or like what you do in high school is what truly matters for like college or what you do later. No, it really doesn't. But at least those are your initial steps. But it doesn't define on what you're going to be doing in another 10 years.
Yeah, what matters is what you do later.
Right.
If you're one of those people who has your entire life set out for you in a roadmap, and that's what your roadmap you follow, fine, that's how you've done it. But for a lot of people, for most, that is simply not the case. And being a teenager sucks. And I don't care how mapped out
so
or
badly.
good, it sucks. And, so just survive it. Don't think that it ends, everything stops and starts there, so that everything bad that's happening is the rest of your life, because it's literally not. Literally, it's not. And then once you get through it, then your life can really start for you.
Absolutely.
So yeah,
very true.
That's a great quote.
Good one.
All right. Now there's quite a few in here. I read through every single one of these earlier. It's really hard to pick a perfect one, because they're all so good. So I'll just stop.
Let's do a final pick here.
Let's see.
What do you think would be?
Well, in the meantime, remember, my dear, I can smell a lie like a fart in the car.
That's just a good one.
Yeah. Okay.
I'm going.
Right, I picked one.
Okay. Make it good.
Can I say one real quick? That's a funny one.
And one more funny one.
Well, it's not funny, but it's well written.
Okay.
Now I'm depressed. Now I feel like killing myself, but luckily I'm too depressed to bother. Which the subject matter is not funny, but the punchline is that
how you're just in that cycle.
Right, but it's delivered well into the film.
Absolutely,
don't live your life by that.
No, that is
all right. And the final line is: feeling screwed up at a screwed up time in a screwed up place does not necessarily make you screwed up.
Very true.
It's not, you're not always.
That holds true at any age.
That's why I saw it and I was like, oh yeah, that's the one.
I've had days like that recently.
Yeah.
Nope, I mean, dude, that's
yeah. I think I might go through small bouts of that every day.
Damn right. Yeah. Well, yeah. Depending on work stuff.
Yeah. Did I screw up? Did I screw up my job? Did I lose? Oh my God. Did I screw up my kid? Like.
Oh yeah. Who did I piss off now?
Yeah. Who did I piss?
What did I not do right?
Yeah. Did I forget to pay something?
Yeah. Yeah. It's.
In a world that goes, in a world right now that's seemingly chaotic and is chaotic.
Yeah.
I totally get that. So for everyone listening, if we have anything that's not our given advice, but something that we love, is that it's okay to not be okay, which is a cliche now. Used to be really well said, but now it still is, but now it's cliche. But just remember, feeling screwed up at a screwed up time in a screwed up place does not necessarily make you screwed up.
Very true. And that holds true to, honestly, what we've always said on the show as well. As parents, as people, as partners, parents, people, partners. The 3 Ps. That holds true to all of it, because you're never going to have, not every day is going to be perfect. You're not always going to do the right thing, even though you intend to do the right thing. Something will always be messed up.
Or there will always be a problem to fix.
Yeah.
Or a problem that you can't fix. And that's really important to decide, to remember as you go through it, that there are just some things you can't fix. There's some things you can't make better.
Right.
So the more you waste your time on that, the more you're wasting your energy on things that you really can make better, whether for yourself, your family, your friends,
yep,
or just the people generally around you,
very true,
whomever they may be.
Exactly, and that's why I try to, especially with my children, where even if we have a bad day, arguments, whatever, at least by bedtime, I try to sit there and say, hey, I know it was a bad day, but I love you. We'll work through it. Well, I try to put that, keep that positive something in their brain as they go to sleep. so they can hopefully at least wake up refreshed, have a good viewpoint to start the day. The problems may still be there, could be worse, could be better, who knows? But we're starting in a better place, you know.
If you can help it, don't let them go to bed angry.
Exactly.
Or don't go to bed angry yourself.
Well,
if
yeah,
you can help it.
Absolutely, and that's exactly what I mean. It's just like, because I didn't want to say angry, just because there's all sorts of stressors.
Yeah, there's all sorts of emotions and triggers, but generally the general saying kind of encompasses like, don't go to bed upset. However,
because usually you're having a fight with somebody, and
or something happened, or kind of rock your world a little bit, and
very, very
you
true.
have to deal with it. But you try to, it's important to let your kids know, regardless, whether they, is be consistent, constant all the time, as that whatever happens, that they know that you love them regardless, and that's not going to stop, go away, or diminish with time or actions.
Absolutely.
You are our children. Doesn't matter what happens, we'll always love you.
Right.
So and if you love your kids, make sure you go tell them tonight and every single night, while they'll
do it as much as you can.
Whenever
you can.
While they'll listen.
Oh,
get those hugs in while you can.
Even if they're not listening, as long as you say it and they're within earshot.
Yeah.
They can hear you. They may not be listening, but as long as they can hear you, and they know where you're coming from, you're off to a way better start than so many other people.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
so go kick some ass, I guess.
Yeah, go do it, guys. That's
remember to watch things with your kids, whether it's movies or whatever you're into, but particularly movies, games, but just be there with them as much as you can.
Introduce your loves, and they will definitely be showing you theirs.
And they'll love some, and they won't love others. But
I know.
But you'll instill part of that on them, of the things that you love.
I definitely pushed Star Wars and Doctor Who way too early on Logan.
Star Wars, I pushed. I didn't push it. I would put it on, and then she'd see the lightsaber and be immediately hooked.
Yeah, I mean they'll still watch some stuff with me, but for Logan it was definitely like, no, this will be our show, this will be our thing.
Yeah,
and he's just like, yeah, cool. I'm like, all right, fine, I'll just do this. I'll watch it by myself this time, But
for me and my kiddo, it's Stranger Things.
Oh yeah.
That's it's several shows. We have several shows we love to watch together. That's definitely the main one. Flash was one. Definitely, but as she's gotten older, it's gotten a little more mature. But definitely Stranger Things. That's ours. Like forever for the end of time. That's our show.
I've got my video game junkies, and then we have just a couple of our random family shows and different things. And, because I still get I don't want to watch that, it's boring, blah blah blah. But I'm like, no, it's Daddy's turn for the main TV.
Yeah.
It's my TV, blah blah blah. Put it on. Both of them are just locked in, and it's like, oh, this is the boring show, huh?
Yeah.
I'm not going to say nothing because that'll break your concentration.
It's different when they've got a choice. When they don't have a choice, they're like, I guess I'll just see what this is. And they're like,
yeah. Or it's even stuff that they've watched before. They're just trying to be like, they didn't get their way.
Yeah.
So that's,
Yeah, so they're being stubborn.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, as they all are.
As they all are.
Or as they all can be.
Yes.
We all. So, sad now.
I know. We got to wrap up. We've definitely gone longer than we have in a while, but we wanted to make sure the full experience is there. Guys, all I can say is thank you. I know I say it plenty of times, but thank you very much for listening all these years, for staying with us. Even hopefully this is not your first episode checking us out, because I'm sorry for the disappointment. And then, but fortunately, and here's where I'll go ahead and give the plugs as we do too, because all the episodes, even the ones that I had as just the Geek Father, are still located on GUIPodcast.com.
That's right.
The episodes will stay up just like GUI Flagship does. We're not getting rid of anything. This does not mean that we are 100% done. We are just unsure of what the future holds and what we need to do to get to the future.
Yeah.
So, again, guys, so much appreciated. I still plan on doing a few, and I've been bad about it this year specifically, but there's still social media stuff like Instagram. The Geekfather, was it Geekfathers GY? Twitter at Geekfathers1. All that stuff where I still may post some like just funny little memes, jokes, whatever it may be. There's a couple other sites that I like to share stuff with.
And GY Network is, well, we're working on, we're always working on other things and together as a team, and we're trying to plan something. Hobbit's always creating something new. So,
right.
Especially maybe trying to do something more live, which is a blast.
Oh yeah, do any live performance we can do would be fucking awesome.
That'd be a blast.
But both of us will be part of new shows, and of course still guesting on our friends' shows.
Oh, we're not going anywhere in that.
No, we're definitely not going anywhere, guys. So, what was it? I think what I did. I finally released the first Geekfather. It was summer of 2017 or 2018.
I think 2017. I want to say.
Was it that recent after the actual GUI started?
It could have been.
Because GUI started 2015.
Yeah, well, just a few months after.
So, years I've been doing this show, and like I mentioned earlier, my deepest appreciation and love to my co-host who jumped on. We should have totally gotten you on earlier. But again, the way life and the way we try to plan things and the way things go, who knows?
Yeah.
We're flexible, but we came together. The past few years have been great doing this show as far as I'm concerned. I still enjoy doing it. It breaks my heart we have to pull it away, but again, it's not a light decision made, but we've had to do it, and
life goes on.
Oh, damn it.
Life goes on.
Of course you do.
Life goes on.
So there you got a little ditty there at the end. I'm sorry about that too. But but guys, keep an eye out. This episode will be here. This show will be forever ingrained with us. And like I've said 5 billion million times already, guys, thank you for there was never high expectations for this show to have numbers like GUI from the Mouths of Madness, whatever.
Yeah.
But friends and other people who have found us, you've been there, you've supported the show still, you've given us even the slightest bit of numbers. So thank you very much for everything you guys have done to be part of the
Geekfathers
universe.
Honestly,
last words.
Last and final words. I will say that if there's anything I can leave you with, is that, as crazy as everything is, there's a couple of things that you can do. Maybe even a few. One is keep hope any way, anyhow that you can. And try to do more, or just treat people decent. Don't be a dick. That's all I could say. Is that really at the end of the day, regardless of who you are, where you come from, just try to be open and don't be a dick. It's okay to be kind. It's one thing that we have plenty of, and yet we're running short of every day.
It's even okay to be angry, but how your actions portray that can make a big difference.
Yeah, and it's okay to be kind. It's okay to show kindness. Kindness isn't weakness. It's strength in the face of something telling you it's weak. And, it's okay. Don't be a dick.
Don't be a dick?
Don't be a dick.
Oh, and don't forget, join us.
Or cry.
In a world of blockbuster movies, there's another dimension.
The dimension of schlock cinema. Join us at Beautiful Disasters on a journey into the fringe territory of B-movie abandon.
We review the flicks that are forgotten or underappreciated to give them a proper place in the annals of celluloid history.
I'm the Groots.
F.U. Hunter.
Your guides at Beautiful Disasters. Come along with us for a fun ride. May the schlock be with you.
GUIPodcast.com.